welcome to the Busy Mum Show, the show to help mums and their families thrive. I'm your host, Dr. Leonaura Rhodes. And today on the show, I'm delighted to introduce you to the very talented Holly Muñoz. And Holly and I are going to be talking about living a passionate life. Before I introduce you to Holly, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about the show. I've been helping women and their families thrive for over 20 years as a physician, coach, and neurotherapist, and with my book, Beyond Soccer Mum, Strategies for a Fabulous Balanced Life. The next natural step was the Busy Mum Show, where I bring you interviews with experts and interesting people to help you improve and enhance your life. So hi, Holly. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
So Holly, I'm going to start by reading your bio, and I hope this is accurate. You can correct me if not. So Holly is a musician and songwriter based out of San Francisco. She's also on the board of two long-established nonprofit organizations, the Mid-Oceanographic International. What's that one? I did practice, but I'm obviously...
The Mid-Continent Oceanographic Institute. It's a creative and tutoring center in the Twin Cities of Minnesota.
Okay. And Voice of Witness as well. Is that correct?
Yes. And that's based out of San Francisco.
Okay, cool. So, so just to tell you all a little bit about how I met Holly. Holly was playing in a very private, very small concert at a private home near where I live with Ken Stringfellow, and I was so impressed by Holly's story and by her beautiful singing and her music. That I decided that I would invite her on the show so that we could talk about living a life that's full of passion, because I know, Holly, you have followed a path that is not an easy one, but is one that you're very much passionate about. So tell us about how you got into the music industry.
Well, it's funny, I started music a bit late. I wasn't really musical until after college. I had a boyfriend who taught me a few songs on the guitar. So I was about 22, and then I started playing my own songs and writing my own songs and singing. And I knew it was something I really enjoyed a great deal, but I did have a career that I was pursuing in nonprofit administration and fundraising and development. And so music was pretty much on the sidelines, more of an avocation, for 8-9 years. And I moved to California to work with the San Francisco Symphony in the administration of that organization. And I met a producer, John Vanderslice, who's based in the Bay Area, and he agreed to work with me, and it just seemed like it was a good point to kind of shift more, and not to say much more about that, but basically music, kind of later in life, and then only very recently has it become a full-time pursuit. So in the last 14 months, I've been playing music.
Mm-hmm. And I remember when I saw you play at the concert I mentioned, you were talking about where were you living that was cold and snowy and unpleasant?
I'm from El Paso, Texas originally, so I spent 17 years in the desert Southwest, and then moved to Minnesota for college, and I was in Minnesota for 14 years, or winters, as I like to count them. And I think I just had kind of had enough. I was like, I'm an adult, I can move anywhere I want. So I picked California and arrived with, a pod of stuff, not a lot of stuff, and a friend or two, and it's been quite an adventure.
Yeah, it must have been a very brave scary move for you to kind of leave everything behind and all of your friends and connections and move somewhere totally new.
Yeah, it's you know, I think that we do these things. I mean, I did it pretty impulsively, and you know, I just kind of, I was like, San Francisco,
Yeah.
that sounds great. And I think that I underestimated, you know, like my move and build community, and you know, and even start a new job. And then of course a lot has happened with really create a lot of chaos in life, and they require collisions to, you know, I mean, it's inevitable that you're going to meet lots of new people, and so I will tell people to do things like that if it, you know, if they're on the fence. I'm like, sure, why not? But well, of course, they're sometimes more kind of methodical, and they want the change to be more gradual, and I think that's fine too. So, but I love, you know, pulling a geographic.
Yes. What a great place to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe that you're traveling a lot with the music as well. And you were up in Connecticut when I first met you. How much traveling do you do, and how do you kind of create balance while you're doing that?
It's hard, you know, and everything related to this career that I'm starting as an, you know, an independent musician is really, it's an experiment. You know, I mean, I've gathered as much information as I can, and I'm always talking with people and trying to figure out ways to do what I'm doing as well as I can. But I mean, a lot of it is just, you're just trying stuff out. And you're also doing it all. So, you know, I've found that, which I almost 5 months of the year, drove 26,000 miles. And that was kind of, it was too much. Like, it was fun, and I had great shows everywhere. I primarily play like not in clubs and venues. So I play in houses and living rooms where, you know, we met this beautiful living room in Greenwich. And,
Yeah.
and so the shows are great, but it also just a tremendous distance to cover. So I'm finding that will save the West Coast and the Southern U.S. But I have a lot of international travel coming up. That's really, they just manifest in that way. And I'm going to Paris in April to make a record with Ken Stringfellow. We're doing a country album together in Paris, of course. And then I'm touring around Europe for almost 3 weeks. And then right when I'm driving across the country from Seattle all the way to Miami, and I fly to Cuba, and I'm going to Cuba to write music with Cuban musicians, and I was invited as a part of an arts group to go and do that. So so the travel is, I mean, there's still going to be a lot, but I think I'm finding that I need to be a little bit more, you know, discerning about where I'm going.
Yes, travel's very time.
And how much I actually need to do. So touring in the spring, promoting the new record and then more touring in the fall, and then back in the studio. So I want to make a record every year. That's my plan, every December to record, and then kind of have a year-long album cycle, which is fast. Most musicians are making records, you know, every 2 to 4 years, but not me.
When you finished your first album and started promoting it, were you very enthusiastic, or did your enthusiasm kind of wane once you'd finished actually making the record?
No, I mean, I feel so, there's actually, I've been telling people there's actually a part of me that like wants to hit the eject button. There's just like so much happening that it's I mean, it's at times like very intimidating, because it feels like, how am it's getting bigger and better, and that's the whole point. But you're also in a vacuum, because you're doing the musician, the artist, you know, the artist, the manager, the publicist, the, you know, booking agent, the intern, the running buddy, like you're doing it all. And so you don't have a lot of perspective, and it's constant. But I think that kind of that kind of pressure like keeps you lost any enthusiasm or interest, because it just keeps getting more exciting. And but it's a little nerve-wracking too, because there's stuff that's that's happening, and it feels very big, and and you want to do well. So I don't know. So it's that I think adjustment of trying to stay focused and grounded, and yeah. But and the fact that I'm doing a new record every year too, I think is keeping it fresh, because like I'm playing a show in a couple days and I don't even know what songs to play. I'm like, do I play songs from the record that I just put out? Like I mean, I'm actually sold out of that record, but like, people could still download it and stream it. But because I also press LPs, I don't have. I can show you. I have like I actually make albums, and you've seen these in person, but they're beautiful, and I only have like a few of these left.
Cool.
So I don't know. I don't know if I should play songs from this record or the record that's coming out in September, or which double LP, or if I should. And then Ken and I are making a record in Paris. So there's a lot happening, but no, I have not lost enthusiasm.
That's great.
For it, or excitement. It's just a dream.
It sounds like you're somebody who kind of thrives on pressure and lots of things going on around you. And it's not for everybody, but it's great if you've kind of found your passion and you like this way of living. Then you're extremely blessed to have found this, and also to be to be successful.
Well, it's different too, because I also your show, I think, it's the Busy Mom Show, and so I don't have children, and I have now created a space where I can put everything into this creative pursuit, which is now like my career also. And so it is different for everyone, and everyone has to find that balance of what it is that makes them what are you passionate about, like what are the things that you love to do, and then how does that fit into like everything else that you have going on, because I think we're all very busy. Path is different, and that's the thing too. I don't think that everyone has to make, because I talk about this a lot at my shows, like the idea of like going for the thing that you really care deeply about, but maybe never a full-time musician, or or like learning how to knit or whatever it is. Like I really think that it can be small, or it can be as big as you want it to be, but the most important thing is just, I think, even contemplating that. And it can change too. Like I have this feeling that I'm going to be moving into stand-up comedy at some point.
Oh, cool.
Like that would be really fun to learn. I listen to a lot of stand-up. I just saw Maria Bamford firing this woman. I don't know if you know this comedian. She's based out of LA, and she suffers from she's had a long struggle with severe mental illness, and so much of her work, her writing, is about that. And she did her set, and her stand-up was great, but her Q&A at Stanford afterwards was just so inspiring, because she's she really has like built this business around her talent, this thing that is I think her honesty, her authenticity, to her bravery to talk about this issue that is like very hard for, I think, a lot of us to even discuss, let alone share our own relationship to it. So that was really neat to see that. And I'm like, stand-up comedy.
Maybe you could do stand-up comedy and music at the same time.
I know.
Tell me how you met Ken Stringfellow. And for people who don't know who Ken is, he used to be a guitarist with the super band REM. So how did you meet somebody like Ken?
It's a funny story. I was coming back from Mexico City. I had gone to find some extended family there, and because I'm Mexican, and on the way back, I didn't have a cell phone with me, and I needed to call my ride to pick me up from the airport. And I thought, because you don't know numbers anymore, everything's phone. And so I have the number in my email. So I see this man sitting there, and I say, excuse me, can I use your computer for like 2 minutes to get a number out of my email? And he was very like, I guess so, like a very reluctant yes. And I grabbed his computer and got the number, and I asked him what he was doing, and he said, I'm on my way to South by Southwest for the Big Star Alex Chilton Memorial. And I said, oh, I heard that Alex, because I had been offline for 2 weeks, I said, I just heard that Alex Chilton had passed away. Like, how do you know him? And he said, I'm in Big Star. And then I was like, wait, who are you? Who are you? And he's like, I'm Ken. And then I connected the dots. And, I had never seen the Posies, sort of predated me. I mean, of course, I've listened to them, and I know REM. But yeah, he toured with REM for 20 years and has been instrumental in kind of keeping the Big Star legacy like alive. He does these huge tribute concerts in Sydney and Memphis and LA and Seattle. And anyway, and so I got his email and I went on my way. And 3 years later, I had made this record with John Slice, the one that I held up, and I should send that to Ken in Paris where he lives. And so I did. And then he wrote back and was like, it's great. Like, what are you up to? And we just had this incredible fall together where we played like a dozen shows all over the country. Wow. And, I mean, we really hit it off, and we love, I think, writing together and playing together. So he said, come to Paris and let's make a record. And so we're updating. The plan is to update Willie Nelson's 1975, his album from 1975, The Redheaded Stranger, wow. Which is a very cool like concept album that, it's amazing to listen to that and think he was able to put that out way back then. But he plays everything on it. So we're going to it'll be 2015's response to that. And that's lots of cameos from people, and, and in France. Why not?
Yeah, sounds really cool. So Holly, I don't know if you know, but I have a son who is a musician as well. He's into electronic dance music though, so it's kind of not your not your genre, but he has days when the creative process is going well for him, and other days that it's not. How is the creative process for you? Do you find it an easy one, or do you kind of have to meditate before, or how does that whole process work for you and your music?
Well, it's funny you mentioned EDM, and I actually will say that I have my third record. So this December of 2015, I'm making an all analog EDM record. Oh. So no computers. We're going to go into the studio and make an EDM. It's funny making EDM record and not use any computers, but the creative, and so I should talk with your son too, because he might, and people are remixing this record that I'm making right now, so maybe he can be involved. Cool. With that. Anyway, I think what I'm finding about process is that for me, I'm only able to be creative when I have space for it. And so I've written more music in the last 14 months than I did in the previous years, because this is what I'm doing. I'm playing my instrument every day. I'm playing shows, all the time. I've never performed this much. I've become comfortable performing. I love it. And that fuels, I think, you want to write new songs, you want to tell more stories. And so it kind of feeds on itself. And that's why I'm saying, like, whatever works for you, if you hold that space for it, it can flourish. It's like having like a plant with no potting soil, I mean, it's not going to grow, but if you find a container that's the appropriate size and you give it what it needs, like, the plant will grow. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. And for me, I'm also, John Vanderslice, told me that it was very important to find a place where you feel, he's like, it doesn't, now in music, it doesn't matter like where you are. It really doesn't. Like, you don't necessarily need to be like in a scene, because he was saying, I've seen people make it work, living in like Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And I've seen people, like hate living in New York, or they love the grind and the cement and the traffic in LA, the whole vibe, or, or they feel too isolated in, in like some mountain town. So you have to find a place that inspires you, like where you are and you're like, oh, I love living here. And that's almost more important than where you are, like in terms of, like who's there and be a part of a particular scene or movement or whatever. And so that has been important too, to see that, yeah, he's right. Like I do need to situate myself somewhere where I'm set up to feel, like, oh, I like it here. And nature is like a big thing for me, like I just, I'm finding how important it is to take time to actually like get away from the internet and, and like take time to read books. So yeah, you can't work all the time, which I have a tendency to do.
Yeah.
So,
that's really interesting. I'm reading, I'm listening to a book at the moment about peak performance, because I do a lot of work in the peak performance arena. And it's by a guy called Jim, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Loehr, something like that, Loehr. And he trains kind of top athletes and military and, people who really, really need to be on their game for peak performance. And he was saying one of the most important things is having adequate rest and really, really kind of allowing yourself to recharge. It's as important as the training, which was really fascinating to me. And I think there's a lot of people today mistake being constantly busy for being productive. And, to be productive, you need to have breaks as well. So, so that was fascinating that you should say that too.
Like sleep,
yeah,
and water and like exercise and like all the things that you need to kind of to rest the machine as much as you work it, because it is like you can't. And that's what I found with when I was pushing really hard with the band and working as a full-time development professional. It was like I got home from these long days and like the last thing I could think about doing was like writing a song. I mean, I was tired. And so if you wake up and you have a routine and it's like you're fresh and like I'm going to go for a run and then I'm going to come and, and I've been very good about like rehearsing. I mean, I rehearse every day. I run through, now I have quite a lot of material. So, I mean, I could play 3 hours of music a day if I played everything that I play. So I certainly play every day and I try to rehearse, at least a third of my set. And so, or my repertoire or whatever, but that kind of routine I think is, but if you start, kind of burning it at both ends, like quick how it impacts your state of mind, it's like you get like just anxious and it gets harder to be positive and to kind of keep the momentum going. So you definitely do have to hit pause, I think.
Yes, that's very good advice. Do you have any advice for our audience on following their passion? There's a lot of women watch the show who are mothers who've kind of put their own life on hold for a period of time and may have some passions that they've kind of been ignoring for a while. Any words on kind of how you even begin that process of deciding I'm going to spend more time following my passion?
Well, I think there's two things. The first is I think sometimes people don't even know like what it is that really makes them like happy. Like what is that thing that you love to do? And I had a great kind of teaching from when I was working at the symphony. Our principal oboist, he died on stage like the second week that I got there. He had an aneurysm. I mean, he had been there for 2 decades, was dearly loved, and it was an incredible oboist. And at his memorial, someone was eulogizing him, and I think maybe it was his brother, but he was saying that Bill would always tell his students, like, if they weren't weren't sure of like what it was that really like kind of drove them. He would ask them to think about the thing that that they would do if there was anything that they did in life and they would lose track of time doing that. And that's you're probably on to whatever it is you'll find to be very meaningful. So don't know, you just know that you're like, your life's on hold because you're parenting, or, you know, you have a very intense career. It could be a good exercise to just contemplate, like, what do I love? Like, what do I lose track of time? What do I lose myself in? And then maybe you can identify it. And so if you already know, like, oh, I love writing, or, you know, I love gardening and I want to become like a master gardener, you know, or I love like, you know, being involved with my community and I want to like be an activist or whatever it is. From there, I think, I mean, it sounds so simple, but I think you just have to do it. Like, I don't know if there's like a formula aside from like just doing it, and also being compassionate and knowing that, like, okay, so like it's like one day at a time kind of a thing. Like, you can say, like, today I'm gonna try and do this thing, and even if you don't make any progress, like accepting that, like, that's okay, like you can try again, you know. So I don't know, doing it, like maybe being organized about it, but if like the plan doesn't go according to plan, like whatever, you know, just try again.
Yeah, being kind to yourself. Well, that's wonderful advice.
So I'll play, this is the title track from Maps and Lists that I put out last September. And it's a song that I wrote for the artist who did the album artwork. His name is Anders Nilsson, and his books are the most beautiful art. He's my muse. I just love him. And I hadn't met him, and I read this book that he wrote called The End, and it was so heartbreaking. And I wrote this song in response to that book. And then I thought, well, I should probably tell him, collaborated.
Yeah.
You know, I lifted some of the lyrics or some of his writing and put it into the song. And when I shared it with him, he was, you know, flattered. And then we started working. You know, he agreed to do the artwork for my album, and he's doing the next album. So so this is my song for Anders, Maps and Lists. Try to remember all the words I never said to you. Make maps and lists of everything we were going to do, and draw a simple line from when I was yours and you were mine, to the moment we started telling ourselves it would be just fine. And that's where it just flew apart. It just flew apart. That's where it just flew apart. It just flew apart. Now write an equation, use theories of sets and complex math about how two became one, and then one suddenly became half. And try, really try, I mean try to figure that one out. Half might as well equal 0 when x is solved for with nothing but doubt. And that's where it just flew apart. It just flew apart. That's where where it just flew apart. It just flew apart. It happened so fast. Your life shatters like a sheet of glass. And that's where it just flew apart. It just flew apart. But I know, I'm sure, convinced that someday soon I'll mend my broken.
Woo! Thank you so much, Holly. That was wonderful. So before we end our conversation, I'd love you to tell us how our audience can find out more about you and by your music.
Yeah, I'm everywhere. I have, all the stuff online. You can go to iamonteamholly.com. That's my website, and there's a place where you can sign up to, I have my address and my phone number, so I love letters, I love phone calls, and then there's a mailing list you can join, and I try to update it depending on what I have going on, so that's something. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All those links are available there too. You can listen to me, you can download the record on iTunes, you can stream it on Spotify. Although I will say that streaming is tricky because it's I heard that you have to I was reading this article, you have to have 813,000 streams of a record, of a song to equal one album sale, which is just crazy. Anyway, but you can stream music, or the best thing to do is to go into your independent record store, like an actual record store, you have a turntable, or if you have these, and you can get my record there because they have international distribution, and so they might have to order it, but it will be there in a couple of days. So visit your local record store, buy my record, buy John Vanderslice's records, buy Ken's records, support independent musicians. That's a great thing to do.
To the audience watching, I'd just like to say thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and head on over to thebusymomshow.com to watch more of my interviews with some amazing guests.